All right, guys, welcome back to the show. Today we have Nick and Greg from Texas Tail Distillery, and they're going to talk about all the stuff that they're doing. They were gracious enough, hello, get in the camera. They were gracious enough to send over some bottles. We are going to go over those, and we're going to talk about all the stuff, all the cool stuff that they're doing. We had a little chat at the Texas Whiskey Festival earlier this year, and I said, hey, I need to get these guys on because they're doing cool stuff. So without further ado, here's Nick and Greg.
Yeah, no, thank you for having us on. We appreciate it, and I'm glad we can share our
no
story
problem.
with you.
Yes. So basically,
so let's start it. Go ahead.
Go ahead. Yeah, I was going to say we're just kind of going to go through our backstory if you wanted this.
Please.
So kind of our backstory, our kind of our path or how we got to where we are now. We started off with basically a brand. We called it Texas Tail Vodka. So we started off with the vodka. We pretty much had that brand for 5 years. So 2013, we had our first bottle on the shelf. And then 2018, we finally got enough capital to basically start up open up our first location. And it was actually in Galveston. So we were right there on the seawall.
Okay.
But basically, once we got to the seawall location, that's when we started, more or less getting into more of our craft and kind of be able to get to the point where we could start putting stuff in barrels and start trying things out. So we started putting stuff basically into barrels 2018. Probably took us, a year or two to kind of figure out really what we needed to do. Because obviously being there on the seawall and especially there on the island, it was killing our barrels more or less. And so, but now we're at our now location, which is extremely, obviously a lot bigger, and obviously more storage, and obviously our barrels obviously can be a little bit more protected and stuff because we're not right on the seawall. We don't have that sea breeze basically coming in and, like I said, and playing havoc on the barrel every day. So.
Awesome. So we're getting a little bit of a delay. So I'm gonna if I don't react right away, I'm giving it a second to catch up with us, which is fine because in post production it'll edit itself out, so we'll be good to go. So while you were talking, I went ahead and opened up the Coastline Cast Strength Bourbon Whiskey. This bottle is 121.9 proof, aged 3 years. And it's got a great color on it. And just pouring it out of the glass, I could already smell some really nice things on it. So before you continue with your story, go ahead and tell us a little bit about the behind the scenes of this particular whiskey, this cast strength bourbon.
Yeah, so we wanted something a little different than your normal, I guess, MGP mash bill. So we're going to have there's not as much corn in it that we hit the minimum for bourbon, of course, but we do something a little different with the rye and the malted barley. So we're going to put a lot more in there than traditional bourbon, I guess, would in that aspect of it. We're almost at a 60-20-20 split for corn, rye, and malted barley, and so it gives it a unique flavor. But really, like Greg touched on it kind of in the opening, about the being in Galveston, and that's really what does the best for us for the bourbon aspect of it. It's how we're getting those colors and the flavor profiles in 3 years, 4 years. Our first barrels that we put in, when we popped them at 5 years, we got 40 bottles out of in a 53-gallon barrel. So that's showing you how much that's showing how much like that humidity is really affecting what's happening in our barrels. And it took us about a year and a half to figure it out that we were losing that much product. We thought the first year when we lost like 25% of our barrel, the first year we were like, Oh man, that's a little more than what they do in Kentucky and stuff like that. And when we hit that year and a half and we were already down another like 10-15%, we were like, all right, we got to figure something out because we're not going to make any money at this.
Yeah.
And so we figured some things out. We figured how to manipulate the humidity to play an effect or like, help us out basically. And it really comes forward in the cast strength and in the weeded that you're going to try later on. But that's really what it is. So
it's so far. I mean, I've had one or two little sips off of it, and so far it's really presenting really nice because most of the time when you have bourbon, it's very corn heavy. And so you get that dusty corn. Sometimes it's almost candy corn or something like that. And this presents the rye comes through very well, but it's not that normal spicy baking spice rye. It's a little minty maybe. And then the malt comes through, and I love a good malt. So the malt's coming through and it's giving it some backbone and a little bit of I don't know, how do you say, oomph to it? And obviously coming in at cast strength, obviously the ethanol hit is there as well. It's so far, I'm digging it quite a bit.
Yeah, we this one is the one that's winning everything for us right now. It's we went to San Francisco, we won double gold with it. It placed it put us in second for best craft distillery this year in San Francisco. So it's doing very well. We're very happy with the way that this is aging. Our 4-year stuff that's coming out right now, that's getting dumped is like that is we kind of feel like that 4-year mark is our sweet spot for Galveston.
Okay.
So we'll probably never have that 7-8-year-old bourbon at this price point, right? We'll be $150, $200 bottle if we go 7-8 years, just because we don't have any product left. And so we kind of feel like that sweet spot has been that 4-year mark, maybe 3.5, but 4 years. We're getting good flavor, good coloring out of it. And I mean, when we're dumping these barrels, when we look at the staves, we're 3/4 of the way through some of these staves. So there's not much more that we're going to get out of those barrels in that aspect of it, because that humidity just pushes that stuff through so fast.
Right. And how does the humidity affect the proof of the whiskey in the barrel?
So,
well, as I say, we lose a little bit of the proof. So we're putting it in these barrels. I mean, obviously we're having some evaporation for the proof as well too. But like when we actually do to get it out and actually do proof it, like it is kind of like a little bit proofing in the actual barrel because that humidity is so thick down there. And, most days it's 80-90% humidity in Galveston. So that humidity really does kind of play. So like most people may only lose like a proof or two, but sometimes we lose like all the way up to like 4 or 5, even 6 proof in just the short amount of time it's in that barrel. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, we're not definitely not gaining proof in our stuff though. We're losing proof in our barrels. So most of the cash strength.
So you got to
125, and it's coming out around 120, 121. Is what most of our stuff's coming out at.
Well, so you don't. I mean, if you're doing cast strength, and you present it at that, you don't have to add anything to it or anything, and so that way you can maximize the amount of whiskey you're getting. And I'm sure that you can offer this in a lower proof as well, and get your bottle count up. Have you noticed the flavor change when you drop it down in proof?
Yeah, so we have a 87 proof, that we use for more of our cocktails and stuff like that, and that's. That's widely available, I guess, in most liquor stores and stuff like that. It's one of the probably the bigger seller, I guess, of them all. But it changes the you I don't know, you lose some of the flavor profile in it. I mean, you still get the balance of it, but
everything's just shortened. Like you get a tease almost. Yeah. There's like a smaller, kind of experience, kind of thing. When you do the cast, like, all the time people tell us is like it's they get a multitude of layer on layer on layer on layer of just different flavor profiles with it. When they do the 87, it's like, oh well, I kind of got a hint of this or kind of got a little bit of that. It's like it's always like a little kind of a hint. But the cast is like, oh no, it's there. Like, I got this and I got that and I got that, so.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Okay. So can you tell us a little bit about your journey into the world of distilling? What background, things like that. I know y'all probably come from two different backgrounds because you're two different people, but like kind of give us that background of that. Like, cause I get people on here all the time that were executives in big business. And then next thing you know, they're like, no, I want to do that. And then I've had home distillers come through and say, no, I want to open up a distillery. I just kind of like to know a little bit of y'all's background as well.
Yeah, I mean, we started making beer in college, and that's really where the kind of the passion and everything like that started. We realized that neither one of us really cared for beer, and we always found ourselves drinking spirits, whiskey, vodka, in that aspect. And so we started this journey kind of in 2010, and moonshiners was a big thing on TV. And so we were like, oh, we can do this. So we started messing around with it and kind of, was playing around, and it became a very expensive hobby for us for a long time. And when we finally got serious, we definitely we hired a consultant, and we went out and did a bunch of test runs with them and stuff like that. Kind of like honed in our craft in that aspect of it. And so we really started as home distillers, I guess, in that aspect, just as a hobby, but it's definitely grown into a passion of both of ours for sure. And, and hopefully what's going in the bottle is showing that passion.
Absolutely. And that's one of the other things getting to know your guys's baby. It kind of puts me in a rough spot because I've never had to, luckily, and I'm not going to on this one. I would hate to tell somebody, hey, your product sucks. You know what I mean? I would hate to tell, because I have to be brutally honest. But I can tell you right now, for just by the few sips I've had of this, I'm sure this would stand up very well to a big ice ball. It would go great in a cocktail. All of those things, but sipping this neat, it is so nice. The maltiness of it for me personally is coming through, and it's like a beefy backbone of like a malty biscuit with some drizzle of vanilla syrup. I mean, it's really hitting tonight, especially. It's really hitting. So I applaud you guys for, sticking your neck out there and saying, hey, we're going to do something. And then it paying off in the long run. I know as of right now, you guys are still honing your craft and trying to make it better and better each day you do it. So that to me is really commendable, and it's only going to get better and better as it goes. Jimmy Russell didn't know how to distill the first day he stepped on the site, but now he's, he knows a thing or two. So, it's one of those things. So it's super cool. I appreciate that.
It's taken a while. I mean, we worked under somebody for probably 3-4 years before we made our first batch for Texas Tail. And we had multiple batches, right, kind of trying to figure out the recipe and what we wanted to do and everything like that. But it's finally starting to come through as something very unique and special to us.
Right. Right. That's super cool, because I mean, obviously, and we can get into this now, or we can get into it later. Y'all don't just make whiskey. You make other things like vodkas and what did I see? Some moonshine or something that y'all make. So you're not just because the issue is when you make whiskey, you have to let it sit. And that's, you don't make no money on it until you can sell it. So you have to do other things. So did you start out doing the vodka and then the whiskey came in later, or were they all just kind of babies that you had under the same roof?
No, we needed obviously cash flow, and especially to open up the distillery. So that's exactly why we started with vodka, because our vodka is grain to glass, so we can literally have a product within a week on the shelf pretty much. And, wow, that's obviously going to be what keeps the light on, and obviously what keeps fueling the distillery. But obviously, the bourbon is, is more of the passion. And that's where, like you said, you got to just be sure of yourself, because whatever you put in that barrel, you're praying and hoping that, when it comes out on the other side, that it's going to be something that people can enjoy, and people, get the concept of it, people get the idea. Because again, we're not using a traditional, more or less a recipe. We're not doing a traditional way of aging. We're not doing things traditionally. We're trying to kind of get outside the box and try to get, something a little bit more creative. And just like you said, like, that's what we're excited about, because as this is sitting in barrels, for a little bit longer, as we keep, kind of tweaking this, or trying to, like you said, play with the humidity in our facility, we're getting different things, and every time it's coming out something different. And that's why we're excited, because it's by no means perfected, but it's obviously a good starting point for us to start, honing in and kind of getting to the absolute perfect, or to our palate, what's going to be absolutely perfect. So
we can tell, like, each year is getting better and better as we've progressed into our distilling, I guess, experience and stuff like that as well. So it's definitely growing. It's definitely growing. The quality of our product is getting better and better as we go forward.
And that's really what you want. You don't want to ever go back and be like, hey, that first batch we made was the best we've ever made, and we can't compete with it because we lost the recipe, or we didn't really know what we were doing. We just kind of threw some stuff together. So I guess that was my next question, is like, what kind of sets y'all apart? But you kind of answered it already, because you are having to deal with the Galveston climate, and you're having to, like, you're not doing a traditional mash bill, so you really don't have a comparative to, like, a shelf comparative to be like, you have something that's close, obviously, but like, you don't have something to compare it to. And being that you have to put a hope and a prayer on it and be like, hey, is this going to be good? Did we cut it right? Is there too much heads in there, or is there too much tails? Everybody's always all distillers are worried about that when they put it in the barrel. They're like, yeah, I think it's good, but is it good? And you don't know until you pull it out in 3 or whatever years. So I think that's what kind of sets you guys apart, is you're having to learn on the fly with all this and be like, hey, I mean, I don't know if y'all are the only distillery in Galveston, but I'm sure the first I've heard making whiskey for sure.
Yes, we were definitely the first making whiskey in Galveston.
And we like to joke around, we're the first legal distillery in Galveston, because I'm sure there was plenty of those before us, but we're the first legal one.
I can tell you, so we have barrels. We have barrels outside of Texas that are our same mash bill that we created back when we were trying to figure it out. And the stuff that's here in Texas is so much different. So it's so much more flavor and color in the time period that they're getting in the other place. So it's really interesting, because we've kind of left a couple barrels up there just to see what would happen, and it's right. truly a different experience from what's going in our bottle.
That's it, but it's super cool. And here's the thing, obviously you guys know this, because you're kind of the backbone of the company. Experimenting is so cool when you're a nerd about it and all the things, and you're like, ooh, what if we add like 5% more of this or age it in a different climate? But then again, that doesn't make money, because consistency and all those things. So it's one of those things. It's really cool that you guys are able to do that, but then you have to still be on that core product, saying push the core product, which I would love to see some Alaska aged whiskey or whatever wherever you have your stuff. But at the same time, like, I think I don't know, that kind of hit me that you guys are doing that. It's I mean, it's fun to kind of play around with the whiskey. I mean, that might just be me, but
like Nick said from the beginning, like in the beginning, yes, it was a very expensive hobby, because again, like by no means were we at this stage, we're trying our own home hooch and stuff like that, but like obviously taking what was working and obviously perfecting it and then trying to get something better out of it, obviously it's kind of, like I said, got us to where we feel like is a great starting point. So that way we can just, like you said, continue to grow and continue to learn and continue to change and experiment things to try to get, like I said, what we feel would be like, this is it. Like, this is the perfect. We're not going to get any better,
Yeah. You caught me right when I was taking a drink of water. So, while you were talking, I'm pouring very small samples because we got work tomorrow and stuff like that. I poured your rye whiskey. Now, kind of explain to me the backstory of rye. Obviously, everybody loves rye whiskey. It's been popping right now. This one is 101 proof, aged 3 years. All those things are hitting right on the nose for me. Tell us a little bit about this one while I have some more water.
You want to go?
No, you can go.
So the rye was just something that we already had it in our distillery. Like, we already had the rye in the distillery. But we took a little different approach to it, I guess, just like we did with the bourbons and everything like that. Our rye it's not going to be like that 95.5 rye, right? So we added, there's wheat in our rye, so you're going to get a little smoother. You're going to get a bigger mouth feel into it. Because I don't, in our experience, like when people, you either like rye or you hate rye. And so we wanted to try to play around with it and see if we could kind of mash it into more of the bourbon side of it, and just a little bit, and see if we could see what we could do with it. I guess rye is really just an experiment for us. Neither one of us are big like we don't drink rye. I mainly drink the wheated bourbon, and he drinks cask. So for us to do the rye was kind of really just our experiment, and so that's why it's definitely a different mash bill than your normal rye, and a lot of people can hit on it. They'll tell right up front that it's not a 95.5 high rye.
No, definitely not.
And we're hitting it's kind of in the it's kind of in the same mash bill as both of our bourbons. In that aspect of it. So it's still going to meet all the requirements to be a rye, but it's definitely we're definitely playing around with this one,
percentage wise of things.
Yeah, man. Wow. Okay. Yeah. No, I definitely. You said wheat, so now I'm getting the wheat flavor in my mouth because that's what happens. You psychosocially put it in my head. But I think that's a Slipknot song, but whatever, it's fine. But yeah, no, it's definitely not your typical rye. Because I've had some ryes that are 100% rye. I've had ryes that are 51% rye and 49% corn or whatever. And this one is hitting really differently. Now, can you tell us what type of rye? I know my listeners are going to want to know, are you using a Bruzy? Are you using Monongahela or, whatever? Can you tell us what type of rye it is?
It's just I don't even know. I can't even say the name of it. No. It's all from MBS. Like they do all of our all of our grains, everything like that. It's just their normal rye that they send us. It's nothing crazy. Like I said, this is really just an experiment one that we do for us, and so it's kind of just our play bottle almost. Our rye is very limited. And if it ever took off, we'd be screwed because we don't have a lot of barrels of it. And so it's something that whenever, like if we have a bunch of leftover rye from running bourbon or something like that, then that's when we kind of play around with the rye side of things. So it's definitely not our main focus.
Right. Which for this not being your main focus, you're doing pretty good for your little side project. Your side chick over here is pretty nice. The flavors are really nice. I'm almost getting some dark chocolate on it, which I really like. I don't know if that's from the barrel or if it's from the different ingredients in it, but it's really, it has a nice, what we call bouquet. God, I'm getting bougie on you. I'm sorry. Can you tell us what are some of the biggest challenges that you guys have faced, in the whole process of doing this and setting all this up? Obviously, I mean, we could talk about the TABC and the TTB for hours on end, but what are some of the challenges that y'all have faced?
Obviously from the get-go, like I said, it was just me and him more or less with our idea and our passion. And like I said, it was trying to figure out, what we were going to do to make something more or less successful in the end. And because obviously everyone has different palates and everyone has different preferences. So like he said, he's more of the weeded and I'm more of the cask. And so when we set out to do this, I guess our biggest challenge was like, how is this going to taste in the end, or how is this going to be in the end?
All right, I'm going to sneak in here real fast, guys. I won't keep you long. I wanted to talk about our sponsor today. That is none other than Hinterhouse Distilling. This is the Batch 3 American Single Malt, their Discovery Series, their collab with Dust Bowl Brewing Company. And I was talking to Nate the other day, and he said that this bottle is almost sold out. So if you want to get one, go over to hinterhouse.distilling.com and pick you up a bottle. I've been sipping on this one. I sampled this one out a little bit to some people. We've had some really good reviews with it. So if you're into American Single Malt, and they also have bourbons and other things, their Warming Hut was an amazing cordial or holiday drink that they made. I don't know if that's available anymore, so you have to check the website. But one of the things I will say, these guys are grain to glass. They're doing everything in-house. They're trying to keep it as local and as terroir driven as possible. So go over there, check them out, hinterhouse.distilling.com. They do have pretty good distribution, so you should be able to get you a bottle. So y'all be good. Enjoy the rest of the show. And until next time, keep your spirits up.
And that's what we're really driven and focused on, is how is this actually going to, come out of the barrel? How is it actually going to be in a cocktail? How is it going to be, on ice or straight or whatever it may be. And so that was really the biggest challenge is, more or less ourselves, like trying to get, what we felt like this is going to be the most successful, because this is how it's going to end up tasting in the end. And of course, like you said, something like in a barrel, it's sitting there for years. And, as it's progressing, obviously we're sampling it and we can see. And like I said, that's when we're getting to these, somewhere around the 3.5 to 4 year mark. That's where we're really starting to get what we feel like this is going to be what most is going to please the masses, more or less. But at the same time, this is kind of what our vision was of what it's going to end up tasting like, kind of thing. So like I said, our biggest challenge obviously is just being critics of ourselves. But the next challenge obviously was, being there on the coast is obviously, it was just, like I said, the loss and the humidity and everything else. So the environment, I guess, it was our next biggest challenge. And so, like I said, we've had to, change locations. We've had to, do different things to basically be able to kind of control that environment. Because like I said, if we kept doing the same things we were doing, like you said, we would have, bottles that are $150, $200 because we'd be pulling nothing out of these barrels. And unless we were just adding, tons of water to it and proofing them way down, that was going to be the only way we can get it within reason, to be, on the shelf and stuff. So, but, same thing, you just got to take everything in stride and you got to pivot and you just got to adjust and you got to, just keep progressing. And so obviously, again, by no means do we have it perfected how we're aging this, because we're kind of like the only ones out there. We don't really have somebody we can just go ask, or what are you doing, or how is this working out for you? So, so it's more or less, it's just, like you said from the get-go, like we're just trying to, be passionate about it and try to perfect it and trying to make it better each day, kind of thing. So just keep trying and keep pushing forward. So.
Absolutely. So one of the things that I've seen from a lot of people is, as you guys being distillers and being in the process, sometimes you have to get out of your own way, and be like, okay, it's never going to be right for my palate because blah, 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 or whatever, or I don't really care for this note that's coming out, but is it good? Is it still good? Or is it, because like, when you're cooking, like I like to barbecue and stuff like that. When you're cooking, like I always say, man, that sucked. But everybody else is like, oh man, this is so amazing. I can't believe you made this, blah, blah, blah. You should open a store and all this stuff. but then you're like, no, it sucked. I tried it. It's not good. You know, it was a little burn on the edge. You know, the flat was too dry, whatever. You know, I'm cooking brisket, obviously, but you know, and that's the thing I see with a lot of distillers honing their craft is they just got to get out of the way sometimes and say, not that it's good enough, but like, this is great. Yes, we can work on it from here and like make a side project of it as well. But like, this is great. Send it out, because you start farting with it too much. Next thing you know, it's turned into something completely different, and it's not what you originally had intended it to be. I'm coming in again, guys, because we have another sponsor. Yes, we do. We have another sponsor, and that is none other than Texas Whiskey Festival. And if you guys don't know about the Texas Whiskey Festival, it is actually going April 12th, 2025 is when the festival is going to be. It's going to be in Bee Cave, Texas at the Star Hill Ranch. It is an amazing place. It's an old Western town looking thing. It's an awesome place to be. And I just wanted to tell you a little bit about the Whiskey Festival, because if you've been to any sort of whiskey festival, this one is that, but on steroids, because we're in Texas, right? We got to do it right. There's anywhere between 30 to 40, depending upon the year. You know, some people say they're going to come and they don't come, or more people come than you think are going to come. So 30 to 40 Texas-based distilleries are going to be there, and only Texas-based. That's where it's a little bit different from some of the other festivals. This is only Texas whiskeys, and it is really an amazing thing. You get to go from one tent to the next, talking to people like Iron Root, Balcones, Andalusia, Shire, all of those guys. You get to talk to everybody. Garrison Brothers is there. Everybody's there. Everybody and their dog is there. You get to go around and talk to all of them, try samples of their product. A lot of times they have special products just for the festival that they're releasing, a new product they're fixing to release or something like that. You'll get to try it before anybody else. So go over to TexasWhiskeyFestival.com and get your tickets to it now, because they have a VIP section where you get early access. You get special pours. If you're a VIP, you have a special wristband. You get a special pour. You get a cigar if you're a cigar smoker. And make sure you go to TexasWhiskeyFestival.com and get your tickets today, because I guarantee you the VIP section will sell out. April 12th, 2025 is when it's going to happen. And I'm giving you a lot of notice so that you guys, if you're not from Texas, you can come in here and say, hey, I want to plan a trip around the festival. That's what a lot of people do. If you're not from Texas, I guarantee you this is a festival you do not want to miss. So go to TexasWhiskeyFest.com and buy your tickets today. Enjoy the show.
Yeah, exactly. And the rye is a true testament to that. So like I said, neither one of us had less a palate for the rye, but we knew that this is what our vision was going to be of how we would more or less would want a rye to taste. So that's why we kind of played around with, you know, putting some unusual, or not unusual, but there's different percentages and different ingredients and stuff into it. So that way, you know, it does take like, you know, more of the spice out of it, kind of makes it like a softer rye. But obviously too, like you saying, like it kind of gives a little bit more of a mouthfeel. So it doesn't feel like so much as like you're chewing on something that where traditional rye and stuff would be. So I really feel like it's kind of more of the, you know, like the mass for everyone rye. Like if you don't like rye, you're going to like this rye because it's not like a traditional rye, you know? So it's more for the, you know, how the masses are the most people agree that. I'm not saying, you know, people that drink rye and love rye aren't going to like this. They're going to find it different. It's going to be very unique rye. But there obviously people that don't drink rye, they're going to be the ones that obviously are going to be more or less the uniquely surprised about this because of the fact that they can actually enjoy it.
Right. Absolutely. And so since we were talking about challenges, what is one of the mistakes that you guys have had? Not that you've had mistakes. I'm not saying you're making mistakes, but what is one of the mistakes that you've turned into a valuable learning lesson? You know, you're like, oh crap, we didn't fill that barrel enough, or we overfilled it, or when we were fermenting, we didn't screwed the cap on too tight and blew mash everywhere. What are some of the things that you guys have learned through this process, which obviously is a lot, but what is something you've turned into a learning mistake, basically?
Of blown mash all over all over the place before.
And fermenting tanks.
Fermenting tanks. Rye was our big learning curve because it boiled over and went everywhere. During fermentation, we were not expecting that part of it and realized, and then we went and bought bigger tanks just because of that. But a lot of it is we, kind of like what we keep hitting back at our biggest one was learning the humidity side of things. That's what really killed us. And so that was our biggest thing that we had to learn. And then we learned, I guess, when moving, make sure you strap down barrels.
Yeah,
because we lost a couple barrels moving one time, and so.
Oh no!
But yeah. So at least the main barrel that we lost, it was just an experimental corn barrel. So it wasn't we weren't too mad about it, but yeah, I mean we've definitely had our ups and downs in the distilling world, that's for sure.
I bet. So that leads me to another question that I ask, and if you can answer it, it's fine. I know this gets into the geekery side of it, but like your still size, what type of still you guys are running. Obviously, if you're doing vodka, you have a column still as well. Are you running everything on a column and just cutting off at a certain point? How long does it take you to do a mash type things? Because let's get a little nerdy, I guess.
Yeah, that's fine. So we have a 300-gallon pot still that has a column on it, and everything runs through our column. We do cut off a couple windows in it, so we cut off some of the distillation that we don't go through with our vodka side of things, because we want to keep some of that flavor profile there for the whiskey side of it. But we and it really helps keep the proof down too, right? Because obviously, if we're running vodka into the 190s, you can't run bourbon at 190. So, and then the mash side of things, it takes about 6-7 hours to run a mash from start to finish. Typical stuff in that aspect of it, but.
Well, one of the unique things is because our first location we were at on the seawall. We were very limited on space. Like we're talking like 800 square feet, and that's probably pushing 800 square feet. And so the still that we use, we actually do the mashing and distilling in it. Obviously not at the same time, but so our actual vessel we use as our mash tun, and that's where we basically mix all the ingredients. We'll obviously open it up and pour the grains in and everything, and then we transfer it to our fermenting tanks. And then, of course, when it comes time to distill, obviously we can only distill one at a time kind of thing. So we're going back and forth basically between that one vessel with the other tanks and stuff. So that's something that usually is, about our equipment that's usually unique that people want to know. The other, most popular question we get asked all the time is what kind of water we're using, because people just assume that we're using ocean water or bay water, which I promise you we're not. But we just use reverse osmosis water, and that was part of, of things from the get-go is different types of water obviously did different things, being distilled water versus, being purified water versus being, reverse osmosis water. And so that's what we ended with is reverse osmosis water for us to get us obviously the cleanest that we can get as far as our product goes and stuff. So, but like I said, I mean that, and like he was saying too, like our equipment's 300 gallons. So they are, relatively a small batch almost each time that we do it. So it's not like we're, filling 5 or 6 barrels or 10 barrels.
We're making a barrel at a time.
Yeah, we're making one barrel at a time. So
the most barrels that we're making is 8 barrels a month. So I mean, we're not making a lot in that aspect of it. We've stockpiled quite a bit though. So I mean, we're getting there, but we're not making very much. We've had months where we made almost 16 barrels, but that's pushing it, and that's like running us really hard to do that much work. And so to be in that 8 barrel range is kind of where we're happy. Like if we ever blew up and took off, we'd be in trouble because we don't have 1,000 barrels in storage or anything like that. we're still kind of young into it,
Right.
I guess, in that aspect of it. So,
because the coastline bourbon, like I said, even though it's been in barrels, like it's actually only been out like to the public or for sale since April of last year. So again, it's not like something that's been in the market for several years either. Like we're not even 2 years old yet, kind of thing in the market. And so like he was saying, the awards that we were winning is because we were able to submit them into competitions this year. And so this is our first year actually submitting them to competitions and kind of getting it out there, obviously inside the world of the gospel of bourbon, as people say, but that's kind of, relatively new to introduce it to people.
Yeah, I think this year's Whiskey Fest, but last year's Whiskey Fest, we were just launching to the public.
Yeah.
That when we went to that one last year.
Oh, wow.
So we haven't been out there that long with the bourbon side of things. We tried to hold off as long as we could for that aspect of it. We wanted to put something good. We bottled stuff at the distillery. You could come in and buy like 6 month, year old stuff, but it for the mass to go to the liquor stores and stuff like that, we tried to hold off on that for that 3-year mark
at least.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Well, one of the other things I wanted to ask you is you guys are obviously in Texas making Texas whiskey. How do you see the Texas whiskey industry evolving? Because I'm an avid, member of the Texas Whiskey Association and all the things. Like I see the changes that are going on in Texas whiskey and how it's really becoming its own thing, right? It's really becoming Texas whiskey is a thing. And me being a Texas boy and you being Texas boys, that's what we want, right? We want Texas to have a profile. And how do you see the universal market changing towards Texas whiskey?
That's a hard question because we obviously Texas whiskey has grown leaps and bounds over the last 10 years. I guess when it first kind of got introduced.
Yeah.
But it's grown. The thing that I hate the most is there was some bad whiskey that got put out at first. Not necessarily bad. It's just when everyone classifies that Texas funk, and it's gone. Like if it's going away, like that Texas funk, I guess, side of like it's gone away. Like it's going away as these distilleries have learned how to combat the heat and the climate change and stuff like that of Texas, because it's much different than our counterparts. And so like that's what like a lot of our stuff, like it's just taken. We've had to learn how to adapt to our environment to not have that Texas funk built into it, because our first batches that we did, it had it. It just had that over oaked. It was just over oaked. Sure it was punchy in the face.
Yeah.
But then we've kind of learned how to control the environment to produce a much better whiskey. And in this aspect, I mean, if you're drinking I think you have a 3-year-old, so that that was 2 years into our progress. We had already kind of, we'd already figured out that the control of the environment side of things. And so that's right. That's where I see Texas whiskey. As long as we can control the environment, there's a lot of big distilleries that are doing great whiskey right now out there in Texas, and they're helping establish, just like some of the big craft distilleries that started 20 years ago, 25 years ago for the vodka side of things. These guys are only, some people might look at them as competition, but they're helping build the market.
Yeah.
As long as we can keep all the brand, as long as we can keep all the brands out of things and let the distilleries run wild, I see Texas bourbon becoming great.
And that's what kind of touch on everyone is. Go ahead, sorry.
No, go ahead, please.
Like everyone is, well, this is what dad drank, or this is, what grandpa drank, and everyone has like that staple that's obviously Tennessee, Kentucky, but then, I feel like this newer generation, they're looking for something different. Like they don't want to drink, or experience, the same thing that their parents did, kind of thing. So they're trying, obviously different brands. And I think that's where Texas is striving, because we're actually crafting something new. We're not doing something that's 60, 80-year-old recipe, like we're actually doing something that's very new age and very, very new to obviously new people into the market. And so I think that's why Texas can strive, is as long as they're creating, actually craft bourbon, and they're actually doing making it a little different than, Tennessee, Kentucky. I think that's where you're going to get a lot of people that are going to be willing to keep coming back and keep buying something new, as opposed to just buying something that's been around forever, because it actually has a different experience. It has a different flavor profile. It does, different things for them. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I can tell you, I have a bottle of Garrison Brothers from 2010, and this is not a diss to them at all. They've been doing amazing stuff lately, but that bottle is horrible. It's absolutely horrible. It's just not good. It's over oaked, and they use like 5-gallon barrels, and it wasn't great. And now they are coming out with some really great stuff. So, and then back in the day, you had Balcones. They're like, well, screw it. We're not going to use new barrels. We're going to make single malts. And so then they threw it totally out of the way, and they were like, okay, we're just going to use used barrels, and we won't get as much influence, and we won't do this. And, so they trying to kind of change the game for Texas whiskey. And that's what everybody thought Texas whiskey was single malt. And then it turns out like there's a whole lot going on, and there's some great single malts in Texas. I'm not going to lie. Andalusia doing amazing things. There's a lot of these guys around here doing really cool stuff. But when it comes to bourbon, you don't have that many people doing it because of the terroir of the area. Still Austin, they're having to do slow water reduction to keep their barrels from actually evaporating all the whiskey out. And Iron Root is having to do their thing as well. So it's like, it's just finding your niche in the thing. And I feel like you guys are doing the same thing, just trying to find the climate control area, be it a climate controlled area, whatever, or be like Treaty Oak and just source. I'm sorry. And then I'm sorry. I shouldn't have said. I would have to edit that out. I'm sorry. No. So okay, I'm going to change it completely now. So I popped open the wheated bourbon whiskey, which Nick, you said was your favorite, but I want to ask a question about what is behind y'all, because that is a huge buck. Let's talk a little bit about that. I know it has nothing to do about whiskey, but that guy is freaking awesome.
Yeah, that was a high fence place. It's something that I'm not really proud of, but it was an experience. Me and my dad went to go. We both shot big deer like that, and so it was that's a 212 and 7/8, something like that. So it was up in West. That was deer is actually from Wisconsin. The guy is a horse breeder here in Texas, but he has a big deer farm in Wisconsin, and so we went up there and had some fun, me and my dad. But the other two are from our place in Mason, so.
Oh, okay. Mason. Hey, you're close to me. I actually did a bunch. I'm a plumber by trade. I did a bunch of work at the Premier Ranch right before you get to Mason. And they have some huge bucks out there that of course they're hand feeding, high protein stuff, but they're got like 28 points or whatever you want to call it. And I'm like, wow, that's a big old deer. It is like 380 pounds or whatever. Like it's a huge monster of a deer. It can barely walk. Its head's like slinking over like this,
Yeah. That's what the place for that middle one was. But it still was the experience, I guess. So
absolutely. And you can't say you don't like it because it's center in my screen right now. So I'm like, it's
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, my office. It's the centerpiece.
Yeah, absolutely. So tell us a little bit about this wheated bourbon. Yeah. Exactly. Tell us a little bit about this weeded bourbon. I'm nosing on it a little bit. It comes in at 111 proof, aged 4 years. So tell us a little bit about this.
Yeah, so the weeded is kind of that's my favorite. That's where my passion is. I always kind of drew myself to more of the weeded bourbon side of things, and that's what we first started with. It's our oldest barrels that we have, and again, this takes a very unique mash bill into things. It's not going to be a traditional mash bill. What I believe, I guess, for a weeded bourbon, and I kind of let you drink on it before we go into too much detail, I guess, with it, so I don't put things in your head again. But but it's
Okay.
We proofed it. We had to do some things to it. We found out that the cash strength of it had a completely different taste than if we added a little bit of water to it. And so most of the time, this one goes in the barrel at around 115. And it normally comes out in it's coming out around the 112, like high 111. And so we always try to proof this down to 111. It just kind of, It was the sweet spot for it. Whenever we would drink it and stuff like that, it's kind of where it mixed, where it wasn't too much water into it, and we still got all the flavor profile, still got that great color. I mean, the coloring in this one, for some reason, just it goes crazy. It's a nice dark caramel color, like for a 4-year-old bourbon. It's looking really good.
Okay, so here's a tasting note that I give on some really nice weeded bourbons or wheat whiskeys. Either one, you can go either way. You guys have had Whoppers, right? They're the chocolate covered malt balls. I know that's malt, but it tastes like that. So it has that chocolatey note, but then it also has that, like, I don't know, there's a smooth, I hate to say smooth, there's a smoothness to it, but it's almost like bready at a certain point. So it'd be like you putting the Nutella on a piece of bread or something like that. It's really interesting and nice.
Yeah. Whenever when we were doing it at cash strength the first couple of times, whenever people were trying it, a lot of people told us it reminded them of a single malt. By no means is it. It's not even close. But like that's where there's a lot of malt in it, and that's what a lot of people were like, yeah, man, it just has this resemblance, I guess, of it. But we get told that so much, it's funny in that aspect of it. But I mean, it kind of takes the same mash bill as everything that we've done. Really, it's kind of more of a 60-20-20 kind of split in a mash bill, and so it's a unique, different wheat. So.
And kind of touch base like you're talking about, it has kind of like a like you're saying, like eating bread or kind of a bread note kind of thing. Like it has like a softer kind of feel to it. It doesn't feel like it's it's something that's heavy or traditional like wheat, like something that's going to be like this palate forward kind of thing or whatever. It has like a less of a punch up front and then a very kind of like mellow back end.
We get told all the time it doesn't drink like 111.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't. Wow. Okay. So what advice would you give to somebody who's coming into the whiskey industry or the distilled spirits industry? What advice could you give them to kind of like either push them forward or pull them away from, because everybody, anybody who's listening to this is going to be like, oh, I could do that. These guys did it in their shed and then they just made a distillery. I could do that. What are some of the tips that you would give somebody wanting to get into this?
Run. Run. Keep it a hobby.
Yeah.
No, it's been great. The biggest tip is it takes a lot more time and capital than people realize.
And
space. I guess it's pretty much what everybody would say almost. I guess the big thing is just money. That's your biggest thing, because what you're putting in a barrel, you have no idea for the next 3 years. So you're talking about a couple hundred barrels sitting there at $1,000 a pop, and in that aspect, maybe even a little more when we were first starting out, because sourcing barrels was expensive, especially there through COVID and all that. I mean, it got up to where we were spending for a brand new barrel like $500 just for the barrel.
Oh Lord!
So I mean, when big distilleries are spending $200-300, and that's what it was when we first started. And then all of a sudden, when it got up, because if you're only buying 8 barrels, 10 barrels at a time, it gets expensive. And so that's where that's the biggest thing. I mean, somebody sitting at home right now, you could probably figure this out, but it's the time and the effort and entrepreneurship, I guess, and that aspect of draining your savings and banking that this stuff is going to be good in 3 to 5 years. It's taken us it's taken us a while to get where we are. I mean, like I said, we started this in 2010. Our first product hit the shelf in 2013. So I mean, that was a 3-year gap, just us trying to figure out capital, TABC, TTB, cola, everything like that on our own. Because we pretty much did everything on our own. We didn't take on an investor until this year, I guess, was our first year that we took on an investor, just because we realized that we're putting out a pretty decent product and we don't want to run out. And so we knew we had to start putting a little more away than what we were doing. And so for us to take on our first investor this year was a big deal for us. So that's,
I bet.
I know we're kind of skirted around the question, I guess, in a sense, but it really finances and everything like that is the biggest thing that someone has to figure out.
Right. I mean, you can have the best practices, you can make the best whiskey, but if you suck at marketing and you suck at selling your product and stuff like that, you're going to fail. Or you could be the best marketer, and if you have a crappy product, you're still going to fail, because all of the whiskey nerds and all the whiskey people are going to taste it and smell it, and they're going to say, that's crap, I'm not buying it. I don't care if it has a fancy label and a fancy bottle and all the fancy things. I don't care about that. You can put it in a box and have smoke come out when you open it. It doesn't matter if the whiskey sucks in it. And then on the other hand, you're busting your ass trying to make a good product, but yet you can't get distribution outside your city because you don't have the capital to outsource to somebody like Republic Service or somebody like that who can help you get out into the market, because obviously and here, we can talk about this if you guys want to for a second. Shelf space in the liquor store, there is no shelf space for bourbon. It is all took up by the Big Six. The Big Six has 20 different SKUs that they're trying to put out there. And when I want to go buy this bottle right here, guess what? It's not on the shelf because they push it to the side because Elijah Craig has to go up there.
Well, it's not just Elijah Craig. It's all the contract distilling is such an issue that people don't realize. It's great that you can get your brand out there and put it on the shelf and have no overhead though, and so that it makes it hard for someone like us that's putting out a good product, that's trying to do the right thing and that aspect of it. And that's the hardest. I guess that's probably one of the hardest things that we're fighting in is shelf space and that aspect of it. Because I mean, just here in Texas, I mean, how many brands are there that don't actually have a distillery behind it? There's tons of them.
Quite a few.
And all the MGP. I mean, it's great. Some of these brands are amazing. They put out some good stuff. They've sourced some great barrels, but it's not the same. It's not the same product. And some of these guys got millions of dollars to fight for marketing space and buying shelf space and stuff like that. That it hurts us. It hurts the smaller guys like us, and that's why we went after investors this last year and stuff like that, because we knew that we had a great product and we had to get it out there.
Absolutely. So that just you saying, fighting for shelf space, because there's so many people out there buying MGP, slapping a new label on it, putting it on the shelf right next to the other MGP, and the common consumer is going to go up there and be like, "Oh, I've never seen this one before. I'm going to grab it. It's another Penelope. Who would have thought?" It's you grab that stuff because you think they have the flashy label and all of the things, but the juice is the same. No matter which bottle you go into, it's the same. Yeah, they might finish it or they might do something like this with it. The juice is the same. So you guys are trying to do the best you can with what you have and get that shelf space, even a little bit more shelf space than you have. And they're like, "Oh, well, if we can't sell a pallet of your whiskey, we don't even want to have you on the shelf." So it's like, then you guys have to turn into marketers of the thing instead of trying to hone your craft and make the best product you can. So then it turns into, "Oh, now I have to hire on people that are my marketing team, and I do this and they do this." Next thing you know, you got 30 people under your umbrella company. And you have more money going out and you're still making the same amount of whiskey.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. We're at that stage right now.
Yeah.
That's exactly where we are
Okay.
trying to figure it out.
But I will tell you, and I'm going to give you guys, not that this means anything, because I am not, I'm not a Fred Minnick or anybody like that. I'm going to give you guys my seal of approval that any of these whiskeys, this one is hitting pretty good. I'm going to lean more towards the cask strength bourbon, but that's just me for tonight. This one is hitting really nice though. You guys give my seal of approval. You guys are doing really cool things. I appreciate all of that. I'm really interested in this weeded one opening up a little bit and letting me have a little bit more, because it's a little tight on the nose, and it might, there is a thing called neck pour, right? We've heard of this term before. So while I'm talking about that, what are some of your personal favorite whiskeys that are not from your distillery? Obviously, some whiskeys that you guys go to either if you want to drink after a long day, which if you're at a distillery, you've been drinking all day anyway, but or like a special pour that you guys have, Pappy 23 or whatever you guys have back there on the shelf.
My go-to before we really got into bourbon was Weller 107. That's kind of where I always always saw myself and stuff like that. So, but I guess but one of my favorite weeded is still Elijah Craig 18. That's always been like one of my top like bourbons that I've always kind of gone to, stuff like that.
Right.
And so it's it's just one of those ones that I've always enjoyed. It's not everyone's favorite. They've had some bad years, but the last couple bottles I've gotten have been pretty good. So
that's
and
awesome.
I'm more traditional, like I just like makers. Like that's kind of like, again, like what my dad drank, and that's just what so like that was my experience getting into the world, kind of thing. So Maker's 46 is probably, I would say, my go-to. Like if I really want to, just a nice sip on drink and kind of relax and tone down, like Maker's 46 is where I'm going to go.
Absolutely. So you go towards the weeder at the end, of course.
Yeah. That's kind of funny, right?
That is funny. Okay, one more question, and if you guys want to keep talking, we can. I don't know how long. I don't want to keep you guys all night. If you could collaborate with another distillery or industry professional, say a brewery or somebody like that, who would it be and why?
Well, we actually just collaborated with Galveston Island Brewing. We distilled their tiki wheat, their mash bill, I guess what would have been their tiki wheat. So that's their like main beer during COVID. And we put it in barrels after we distilled it. So it's been sitting for 4 years. And we actually just dumped it, 2 weeks ago, and did basically 100. We got 100 bottles out of it. We let it go open air, 4 years. We didn't touch it or anything like that. No climate control, anything like that. And we let it age for 4 years. And we just put it into bottles, I guess like 2 weeks ago. Basically, it started for sale on the 1st of December, and It's a charity bottle anyways, but so we donated 100% of the proceeds. 100 proof. It's 100 proof, 100 bottles, $100, and then all of it goes to we had 4 different local charities that we picked out, and they custom designed their label. They each got 25 bottles, and then it got donated. But it was a fun and unique experience. We'll never distill beer ever again through our still, because it was a pain to clean,
and it smelled like beer,
and it's
all the time.
Our vodka had a hint of beer probably for a good 6 months, but it was fun, and we've had a great time in that aspect of it. But if you want to go into into the bourbon side of it, I would love to do. I guess we've kind of already done that with one of our co-packing brands. We picked a couple barrels from all around the state and kind of married them together. We took corn barrel, malt barrel, like a single malt, and then we took a rye and kind of put it all together. And it was fun. It was something different, that's for sure.
Yeah, I'm sure. So the Texas Whiskey Fest is coming. Before we know it, it'll be here again. And I know that they always want, I don't know if they did one last year. I don't think they did, a Whiskey Fest blend. Are you guys interested in being in that blend if that were to happen?
Yeah, we would definitely be interested in doing something like that.
And
awesome.
Also too,
awesome.
We just came to the full green.
Oh yeah, and then we're actually working on something for the Whiskey Fest. I guess we're gonna take our weeded and cask, and we've kind of picked our favorite, not necessarily like our best barrel, but like our favorite barrels that we've kind of had through the year, and combined them together and made kind of a blended 4-grain that we're that we're gonna we introduced it for Christmas, but it'll probably our top bottles, I guess, will probably come out during whiskey, I guess, for the Whiskey Fest. So
yeah, absolutely. Which I mean, that's the perfect time to do it because you got a lot of people in town drinking whiskey. So that's cool. That to me, you guys are doing some really cool stuff. And I feel like, and this is just me personally coming at you, I feel like you guys are using your heart and your head, maybe not at the same time, which as a man, we don't do that. We're all heart or we're all head. So I get that. You guys are using those parts and you're not letting anything else get in the way, and you guys are just doing you, and you're trying to produce the best product you can, put it out there on the market. And I will tell you, with this empty glass, it's freaking good, dude. It's some good stuff. I can't wait to see you guys' future. I can't see how do you, okay, that gives me one last question. I know I said I was done, but what do you see you guys in the near future? And I don't want to give it 5-10 years because nobody knows what's going to happen. We can have World War III or whatever. It's fine. Like, where do you see you guys in the next year? Let's go to the next year. Like, is there any expand happening? Are we talking about, you talked about an investor. Are we talking about doubling down and making more product? How does that look?
All of the above.
Yeah, check.
We're going after more. We're going after more. And we realized what the investor side of the things did for us through this year, just spending marketing money and everything like that. And so we're doubling down on it. We're going after more investors this next year. Hopefully we're expanding into another facility to not keep the one that we're in, but we need more production facility type space. Mm-hmm. So hopefully, and barrel storage, stuff like that. So hopefully that's kind of in the near future, and then just a better marketing. We've been with San Francisco with the awards and everything. We've had a lot of people reaching out from other states, California, Rhode Island, Maine, Connecticut. Mm-hmm. So we're working on some of that stuff. Total Wine reached out to us about getting into more than just Texas. So that's right. That's really what we see for next year. It's
getting outside of Texas and brick and mortar stores, because like technically they can ship now to 45 states to Texas, but to actually get into more brick and mortar stores outside of actual Texas,
right,
be a huge expansion for us.
So that leads me to my final and next question, which keeps happening. Your distribution is only in Texas as of right now. But you can, do you have any online sales on your website or anything like that?
Yeah, so you can go to our website and you can order online. You can order the cask, the wheated, the rye, the 87 proof bourbon that we have, and then of course the vodka and stuff like that's on there. But you can order all of it, ships to 45 states, something like that.
Wow.
Okay.
That's awesome, because if for like you're saying, for a smaller brand, which I mean, you and I both are at this point, it's really nice to have that distribution point of sale distribution, because it doesn't cut out the middleman, but it kind of cuts out, because not everybody's going to be able to come to the distillery and have the experience, and so, but they want to be able to purchase a bottle because maybe they heard this podcast. Who knows? Maybe they heard this and they were like, I'd like to try their product. They can go to your website and do that. And I will have all that in the comments down below, obviously. Oh man, I lost what I was just fixing to say. It was right there, and I freaking lost it. What was it? Okay.
Speaking of, like, so the website, we have a lot of product that goes to like Michigan, Wisconsin area, stuff like that. So we can track a lot of that, where it's going. So it's kind of unique to see that stuff that's being shipped out of Texas, and kind of leads us to where, like, man, we should really go. That's where we need to go. But with Galveston being a big cruise port and everything like that, where we see a lot of tourists, so we needed that aspect of selling online, because we get a ton of that. Just people walking through the distillery, down here visiting for vacation and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And so they'll go home and they'll order bottles, and we can see it. We can definitely see. We have a huge presence outside of the state of Texas just because of tourism.
That to me is really cool, because I was looking on y'all's website the other day, and you guys have a restaurant as well. Is that correct?
Yes. Yeah, we own and operate a food truck. Yeah. So we own and operate a food truck that sits on our patio. We just ran out of space, so we bought a food truck instead of building out a kitchen. But it's great food. Our chef that we brought in, he came from 5-star dining. We kind of gave him free reign. We said, look, we're gonna put a high dollar rotisserie smoker on the back of it, and you kind of build out elegant bar food. Is what we kind of call it. And so he went to town with it. And we've won best food truck the last like 3 years in a row, out of for the county, I guess, Galveston Daily News. And so it's great food that's coming out of there too. So you can come and visit and eat, drink, be merry, have a great time. We got a 3,500 square foot patio. It's got gas fire pits, outdoor seat. It's beautiful. And Galveston's the perfect place to come sit, relax, hang out for the weekend. It's kind of a Texan second home, is the way we always describe it. So.
And the last thing I'll ask you, is the distillery kid friendly? Because I know we have a lot of people on here that have children, and they're like, hey, we're here on a family vacation. We're going to Galveston, hanging out. Can we take the kids? Can they sit on the patio? They're not going to be drinking whiskey, obviously, but they're missing out. I mean,
No, we're pet friendly. We got tons of games and giant Jenga, cornhole. We got Connect 4, all kinds of games out on the patio for the kids to enjoy while you're sitting out there, or the adults, come later in the night. It's just a great time.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate both of you, Nick and Greg, for coming on here and going through your products, hanging out with me. This has been a lot of fun. Stick on real fast. I want to talk to you before we're done. I got to do my little spiel now. Thank you guys so much for hanging out and listening and watching this. This is going to go up on YouTube and all the other things as well. Y'all make sure you check out the Patreon because we are doing some really cool things over there. We're having a lot of fun. $1 make you holla type stuff over there. So y'all be good. And until next time, keep your spirits up. Peace out.
Just real fast, guys, before we get started with this show, I know you're excited to hear about this one, but I wanted to let you know that I now have Glencairns. I don't know if you can see it. Right there, that is the shaman face, and it says the Whiskey Shaman on him. If you want a Glencairn, hit me up. But I don't know if you guys knew this or not, I still have challenge coins available. These are awesome challenge coins that actually fit right on top of your Glencairn to keep the bugs and nasties out. If you want a coin or a Glencairn or both, head over to shoot me an email or a DM on my socials, Whiskey Shaman Podcast at gmail.com. And I'm working on a storefront. I really am. I'm working on an online store so you guys can just go click and buy from there. But that's 2025 goals. We're not there yet. So y'all head over to email me or in my socials and let me know if you guys want a coin or a Glencairn or both. Y'all be good. Thank y'all and keep your spirits up.